to do. So please encourage people to tinker with it. Okay, encourage people to go through, try different coupling options, try different triggering options, have them really get used to how to use the oscilloscope in a lot of fun ways. There's a lot of really important things that we can do. We only barely cover the surface in this lab. And especially for future labs, for future classes, it'll be really, really helpful to understand further things that you can do. Like seriously, you can plug a USB port in there and it will actually like show you the full USB protocol. It's actually really sweet. These are really nice oscilloscopes. They do some really neat things. So really encourage people and yourselves, if you haven't really gone through and tinkered with these oscilloscopes, they can do some really cool things. So just find some time to do so and really encourage students to do so as well. Sound good? Cool. Another big thing. Please make sure that when you guys are grading, your fair share. Okay? That is part of what we're paying you to do. If you are assigned to grade a certain section, please do that. Okay? Otherwise, it relies on other TAs and they have to spend countless hours doing your job, which they shouldn't have to do. All right? So please make sure you're grading equally and, grading your part. Seriously, there's been a couple TAs that have had to plug in way more hours over the last couple of weeks than they should have to. So please make sure that you're grading your fair share. Does that make sense? Please and thank you. And GTAs, please keep on top of that as well. All right, that's about all I had. We do have a sign-up sheet today. Just making sure everyone is here, making sure we do, make sure everything's going okay there. How did Lab 3 go?
It's pretty good.
Yeah, it's been a little weird, I know, especially with, when did we start going virtual? Was it Wednesday afternoon? Wednesday afternoon? So yeah, literally half of our sections were, virtual. And speaking of which, I do want to say thank you to literally everyone, okay, for making that go incredibly smoothly. Okay, I have heard very, very few complaints about how last week went, and that's all you guys. So please and thank you for everything that you guys have done with that. Again, Piazza, you guys have been keeping a very positive mindset. You guys have been helping people tremendously. It's been great to see. I've gotten personal emails from students saying, hey, your TAs are doing great. Okay, and that just makes me so happy. Okay, it really does. And that's you guys doing that. So keep up the great work on that. Thank you for keeping a positive attitude on Piazza. I know it's not always the easiest thing to do. Especially when, if you keep getting the same question over and over and over again. Luckily, that's starting to wind down a little bit. Okay, we're starting to see people realize, oh, I can actually look back at other people's posts and stuff like that. And you guys have been doing great at actually just, linking the previous post and doing that as well. So again, great job on that. But seriously, great job on making last week go smoothly. We are going to make Skippy for Lab 3 extra credit just because can't really do Skippy with the 82. You can, trust me, you can. There are actual additives you can add to MATLAB and whatnot. It's not the same Skippy though. It's not standard, which is weird because that's what the S in Skippy stands for. No, it stands for serial, doesn't it? No, I think it stands for standard.
I think it's standard.
I think it's standard. I should probably know that. Oh well. No, I think it is standard. Yeah, it is standard. Standard instrumentation or standard programming. No, standard communication for programmable instruments. That's what it is. So yeah, no, it stands for standard.
Yeah, standard
So-
commands for programmable
Yep.
instruments.
So there we go. So we're gonna make that extra credit. So when you guys are grading this week, please be generous. Again, this was a bit weird for everyone. So please make sure, please be kind, please be generous. You're gonna see a lot of wonky data, especially from those that, either started with benchtop equipment, then moved to the 82, or started with the 82 and moved to benchtop equipment. You're gonna be seeing a lot of kind of weird values bouncing back and forth. So again, just please be generous with that. If you have questions, please feel free to reach out to your GTA, reach out to Adam or Aaron or myself, and we were happy to kind of explain that further if you need to. Sound good? Yes.
Do you have a rubric for like the editor modified requirement?
Not necessarily. The values are pretty consistent. They're not really changing a whole lot. It's just, again, the 82 has different tolerances than the power supply and the oscilloscope students. So you're just going to be seeing slightly different values. If I do want to make a note, error calculations have been weird. I'm not sure if you guys have noticed that in other sections, but in my section at least, they have been like I've had some people with like 7 significant figures and then still having like 45% error. And something about that just doesn't add up. So if you see stuff like that, make a comment of it. There's also going to be a slide in our Lab4 PowerPoint, just giving the standard error calculation. That way we all can kind of meet at that standard. If you guys see that kind of stuff when you're grading, I'm not sure if it's really worth taking points off. If you notice it happening routinely with the same student, maybe it is starting to take points off, but please just keep an eye out for that. And if you see, like, again, if you see like 7 or 8 significant figures and then they're getting, 30, 45% error, yeah, it's probably worth at least making a comment saying, hey, these two things don't line up. Okay, you don't have 7 significant figures and 45% error at the same time. It just doesn't happen most of the time, especially in this lab. So just something to keep in mind. Any questions on that? Yes. Oh, in regards to the extra credit and stuff like that? Is it my mistake? Yeah, so pretty much all we're doing is for the submission, if you just count up all the points that are in task 1, if you look at the rubric itself.
But I thought you said we made the test.
Right, you're right.
So when
Yep.
my section on Tuesday, so like there already have some people submitted, so I just want to get that down. That's good.
Right, definitely. Yes, we'll get that out to you as soon as possible. Chances are we're just gonna make it out of, so Gradescope doesn't actually export the percentage or anything, it just exports the number of points you get. So we'll probably just end up making it so you can grade it out of 110. And then it'll export just the pure number over to Brightspace. So, yeah, but we'll figure that out. Thank you for bringing that up. Yes.
For the 2959.
Yep.
Can you get the marking?
One more time.
29595.
Yes, we'll make a quick template for those. We don't have anything super official for those yet. Thank you to those that actually did make a template for Lab 3. That was great for the 29595. That really did help a lot. Greatly appreciated there. So we'll go ahead and, go ahead.
Oh, I'll say one note too about Lab 3 is it's just bits and pieces of, Lab 2 and 3 in 20,007.
Yep.
So you can just, sort of, if worse comes to worse, you can just sort of navigate around, open up both the Lab 2 answer key and the Lab 3 answer key to make the 29595 Lab 3 answer key.
Right. And if 29595 could stick around after the meeting today, again, just for a quick 5 minutes to go through how it went. Just kind of curious on how you think things went for Lab 3, so we can get more information on that. I think that's about all I have. All right, off to you guys. Thank you.
Okay, cool. So, one thing to note is from this point forward, 29595 and 20,007 will be, I think, exactly the same. The only thing is if there's any Skippy left over in the later labs, I'm not sure if there is off the top of my head, but in 29595, that'll be moved to extra credit. And that will literally be the maximum extent of the difference between the two labs.
I believe all the Skippy from then on, even in 2007, is extra credit as well.
Oh,
I
perfect.
believe it's written that way in the manual. And we'll actually offer the same project in 2007. I'm gonna make a template for that and send it to all the GTAs. So we're offering, I believe we agreed on 10% on the practical if they do the extra credit assignment.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So from now on, Aaron and I are just going to be sort of trading off week by week of who's presenting. But so this week, we have Lab 4, which, as Ben was saying, is looking, more at the oscilloscopes and what they can do and what we can do with them. So let me move back here. Oh shoot. I want to go to experiment 4, open up the PowerPoint. So the purpose of this lab is how to monitor and analyze unique waveforms, because, as we've been saying, not everything can be viewed with auto scale. Auto scale is a good tool, but not, always the answer. So two things we're gonna be focusing are triggering and coupling. So coupling, DC coupling, it just includes any DC offset. AC coupling, it's run through a capacitor to remove any DC offset. All the time varying portions of them will remain exactly the same, whether it's in AC or DC coupling. Just, an offset will or will not be there based on the coupling.
As that shows, you can actually do that in LT Spice if you wanted to do that as a quick demonstration, or if you have students that are confused about how that actually works. That's literally the circuit that you need. It's literally, if you look at it that way, it's literally just an RC filter. But that's how it acts. It's kind of fun that way.
So triggering has to do with when the scope will start recording. There are a lot of different modes we can use. Most common is edge triggering, which we look either at the rising or the falling edge. The way triggering works is we give it some sort of a condition, for example, a rising edge trigger, and we say, like, essentially we're telling the oscilloscope, look at the data you're getting. At some point when it's rising, if it crosses whatever our trigger threshold is, at that point, start displaying the data. So as we'll see in a little bit, sometimes that can get us into trouble, especially if we have noisy signals. And then auto triggering is, it'll always try and trigger, even if, we're not meeting our triggering parameters, and normal is it'll only trigger if we meet a trigger parameter. So a lot of times you can see on the oscilloscope how it's just like rapidly changing on there. It looks like moving left and right really fast. That's when, we're not properly triggering. So our goal is to always get one trigger on an input. So some tips, as Ben was saying, tinker around. This hopefully will be a fairly quick lab for everybody. We can, so it's good for them to, explore more things, dive a little deeper. So task 1, there are a lot of sub menus we have to go through, and in a minute I'll show some of the, how to get some of the key measures we need on here. Task 2, Aaron was kind enough to send out the mystery signal to all the GTAs. So if we could please post that on Brightspace. And then how they run the mystery signal is they just download it, open up MATLAB, and then right click and select run, and it'll automatically run for them. One thing to note is once you run the mystery signal, let me move this camera back over. Even when you turn it off, it will, oh shoot, wrong one. Okay. Oh, it's kind of tough to see on there. It's a little like saturated, but one thing to note is the mystery signal combines channels 1 and 2. So, and when we turn it off, it doesn't decombine them. So, if we go to channel 1, more dual channel mode, and then combine here, set that to off. If you don't instruct students to do that, then they will get errors in the later part of the lab because they will be combining outputs when they should not be. Okay, so I'll move this back over to the scope. Yeah. Yeah. So what you want to do is like press the channel 1 menu button, lower right corner, go over to more, and then this button second from the left says dual channel. We press that, and then second from the right says combine. And we want to make sure it's set to off. So, and then again, task 3 has lots of submenus we'll have to navigate. And then in task 4, again, Aaron sent it out to the GTAs, but here it is listed here as well, how they generate the PRBS on their waveform generator. So looking through some of the lab tasks, we want like triangle, frequency, 5 kilohertz, 5 kilohertz, amplitude 3 volts peak to peak. So they'll get that, and then on task, so 4.6.1 step 2, how they get to persistence is in this like waveform box. If they press display, and then down here they can get to persistence. Then you can go capture waveform, and it'll just save. It'll go save a copy of what you just had on there. So then they can go change their coupling and that. So again, how you get to persistence is display, persistence, and then you can either do like capture. In this case, just use capture. Don't actually turn persistence on. And then you can go clear persistence to get rid of the trace it saves. One thing to note is if you capture persistence and then try and auto scale, it will erase the persistence you have. So once you have a persistence on the screen, you need to do everything manually from that point. Okay, adjust the trigger level. Okay, so then how we change between AC and DC coupling is we have to change the input. So you just press the input, coupling DC, AC, whichever you prefer. But then also on triggering, we have to change the AC and DC coupling on that. They're independent of each other. So again, it's very similar. You just, in the trigger box, you press mode coupling, and then you can go AC or DC coupling. So that's how you get those. So trigger couple. I showed how to adjust the mystery signal. Oh, do we get hold off in here in task 1?
No. Hold off only in task 2.
Okay.
Task 2 and task 4.
Yeah, so how we get to hold off, and what hold off is basically is it says like when we meet a triggering condition, stop looking to meet another one for a specified amount of time. Because for example, if we have answer this one. Okay. So if we have like there's our waveform and here's our trigger, we'll get one, not even visible on there. Oh yeah, it is. We'll get one, nice, clean trigger there. But if we have a noisy waveform, we can get a number of triggers right all around each other, which can give us a lot of problems. So what hold off does is it's saying like the first time we encounter a triggering condition, wait before we look for it again. So what's typically good to do is you want to set the hold off to about like 90 or 95% of the period of the signal. And how we set that is again in the waveform. No, sorry, trigger mode coupling. We have hold off down here, second from the right. And then you can go type in, whichever, whatever you want your hold off to be. And then synchronous and asynchronous. Okay, so as in task 3, if the frequencies don't, line up as integer multiples of each other, if we trigger off one signal, we'll see another moving with respect to it. And for slower signals, it'll look like that signal is moving to the left. And for faster signals, it'll look like that's moving to the right. So that's how we set, that's a basic of that. And then how we get to the XY display mode is up here in the horizontal settings. You press this horiz button, and then time mode XY. So there's that. And then the pseudorandom bit sequence is so again, Aaron shared how to set it up, and here it's included on the PowerPoint there. So when they try and trigger off it, since it does not have, like, it's not a very, how to phrase it? Well, you have a ton of rising and falling edges all within one period. So you can't trigger off it normally. So you can set up with hold off to do that, or you can also set up the trig input, or excuse me, the trig output on your function generator. And what this does is if you bring it into the oscilloscope, it just outputs one high pulse every period of the waveform. So if you take the trigger and your pseudorandom bit sequence, you can then trigger based off the trigger output on the waveform generator. Does that make sense how to do that? Are there any questions? Okay. So we got that. And then generating very fast signals. One thing we'll notice is as the so in task 4.6.5, step 1, they say just to set it to the maximum frequency supported by the generator. But I would recommend just have them actually increase the frequency, like start at 1 megahertz and then just increase it incrementally by 1 megahertz more every time, because then they'll actually be able to see the effect of this starting to take place. And basically what's happening is as the so the scope has an internal capacitance to it, and as the signal is changing faster and faster, we're having less and less time to charge that capacitor in the oscilloscope. So we'll see what starts out as a nice square wave really gets rounded off and actually starts to look kind of sinusoidal at the end of it. So are there any questions about what I've said today? Yeah.
Does the trigger output come from panel 1 or 2?
Yeah. So, oh wait.
Like from when you're outputting trigger from the function generator.
Yeah. Oh yeah, sorry. Excuse me. Yeah. I used the wrong term. Sync. So it's this far left port. And then I think on here you can set sync. I think, oh yeah, so if you press this trigger button right above sync, you can set whether it is based on channel 1 or if it's based on channel 2.
The channel actually on minute.
Yeah. So does that answer your question?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Are there any other questions? Okay, seeing none, I will turn it back over to Ben if he has anything else. Oh, wait, one thing I remembered, probably a good announcement to make in your class is during the next 2 weeks of the semester, 25% of their semester grade will be decided, through the Lab 5 formal report and through the lab practical. So I think it's a good idea, maybe to give an announcement for them to start looking at those, and especially the lab practical. Everything like every question they will be asked is already included in their lab manual. We don't give them the exact values that they're going to be using in the practical, but if they look at the questions, they can see like, oh, I'm going to need to know how to work with oscilloscope triggering. I need to know how to make an LT spice model. So they can work and practice these things ahead of time. So I think giving them a heads up at this point would be good so that they can start looking through and be very well prepared for their practicals. Yeah.
So I took this class like 2 years ago. Do they keep the same practical every year?
It's pretty much
It's like it's the same practical, just different values.
different
I
values.
did ask a couple different things.
Yep, we're gonna try some different mystery signals this semester. I showed you guys a couple of them last meeting. Again, I think we should actually be able to have some fun with that. If that is something you guys want to learn about, it's actually kind of fun. You can do some pretty cool stuff. The trick is to make it look like kind of something-ish in normal mode and something cool in XY mode. So if you can find a trick to do that effectively, let me know. Because I can make it look cool in XY mode, it just looks like absolute garbage in normal mode. So we can figure that out. Because they need to be able to trigger, right? They need to be able to actually make something effective. Either, ideally, it would be able to be done using triggering, with the hold off, with coupling, or using the sync. And if you can do it in one of those 4 fashions, showing that you know how to use at least one of those, that's what we're looking for in the practical. So if it can be done with all 4, that'd be great. Right now, they can only be done with the sync signal. So, gotta find a way to make them look cool in both fashions. But again, we're not trying to trick people on the practical. Again, they have access to it already. They've had access to it since the beginning of the semester. So when people, like, especially last semester, when people complained that they got a low grade, they didn't know what they were doing. Yeah, there's not really a good excuse for that. Yeah.
Is there gonna be a better way to give the mystery signal to them?
Yep. So honestly, I don't really care if it's encrypted or not, to be completely honest. I'm more than happy to send out the P file earlier on, so they have it on their computer. What are you gonna do with it? It's an encrypted MATLAB file. There's not much you can do with it. So I don't know, unless anyone has any objections to that. No? All right.
They mean this before practical, send the file up.
I'll probably just send it out the file. And, like, again, if they want to practice, they have the stuff. I don't know. We'll see. Or we could send out like a sample signal and then make a different signal for in lab or something like that. And we could do it that way too.
Yeah.
Okay. We are gonna have templates or at least outlines for the write-up for Lab 5. I would really encourage you guys and encourage your students to learn how to use LaTeX. It's really, really helpful, especially as you have to make more formal reports as time goes on. You make a lot of really formal, nicely formatted documents. I actually just helped my mother-in-law make their resume in flight tech and it turned out beautiful. So I would really recommend it. If you're not familiar with flight tech, I would really recommend learning it yourselves as well. It saves a lot of time in the long run, believe it or not.
They make you do it in 369.
They do make you do it in 369?
All your homework has to be done at Lab Tech.
All right, well, get used to it now then.
Not this semester though.
Sure.
Yep.
Lab, or extra credit number 3 is gonna be due next week with the write-up for Lab 4.
Yeah, so GTAs, please go add that into your bright space. And if you have any questions, let me know and I can show you how to add it in and then also how to select it so that it's a bonus assignment as opposed to a normal one.
Again, the assignment should be there already. I'm not sure why they didn't transfer over properly when the semester started. I do apologize on that. That is on me. We'll make sure that doesn't happen next semester. Anything else for the good of the group? Okay. Have a good one, everybody. Thanks for coming. Make sure you sign in.
Honestly,